Call to order. Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, according to the Open Public Meeting Act. This meeting on October 23rd, 2024, was published in the Bergen Record and Herald News on January 21st, 2024, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building and on Rochelle Park's website. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Peachy.
Here.
Committeewoman Otola.
Here.
Committeewoman Judge Covello.
Here.
Committeeman Miller.
Here.
Mayor Pacini.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please rise for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Thank you. We'll start with the Police Department Awards, Life Saving Award, Patrolman J. Bono and Patrolman E. Migalaria, Resident Tracy Belli.
Thank you, Mayor. If you and the police commission
Yes.
want to join me up here. Captain, Evan and Joey. So, we did. Please, I promise. All right. I have a script. Don't get dramatic into that. So, and everybody will understand why. So, as police officers, we spend thousands of hours in our career answering thousands of calls for service. And if we're lucky, we get to realize the difference we make. And sometimes we get to save a life, right? That's a career goal. We get this job to protect, serve, and maybe save a life. So I'm going to share a little story with you, and you'll understand why. It's the true life-saving event. So on April 18th at 3:09 a.m., the Rochelle Park Police Department received a 911 call of a man who was unresponsive, gurgling, and breathing but shallow. Within a couple of minutes, police officers Joey Buno and Edwin Migliore arrived on scene, and through the assistance of the wife of this male party, they found him lying on his back in bed. He was non-responsive. He had agonal breathing, which for those of you, it's basically shallow breathing that's not going to sustain life, and no pulse. Officers Buno and Migliore did what their training taught them to do. They moved the patient to the floor. Officer Migliore began chest compressions, and Officer Buno set up the automated external defibrillator and oxygen. Chest compressions and breathing were done with at least 2 shocks administered by the defibrillator. That's when the ambulance and paramedics arrived on scene and took over treatment. The patient was transported to Hexham University Medical Center, where he did sustain a pulse, having survived this incident. During our national night out, I had an opportunity, some gentleman comes up to me, taps me on the shoulder, and says, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I just had the opportunity to say thank you to Officer Boone and Officer Migliore for saving my life." And I said, "Wow, that's awesome." So we began a dialogue, we started talking about, would you be willing to come and present them with a life-saving award? So it's my honor to introduce Mr. Robert Bella and his tribute wife Tracy. Present those, I'll read one. And it just says, it's the Rochelle Park Police Department Life-Saving Award. This acknowledges that Police Officer Joseph Buno, badge 163, has been recognized for a life-saving award for the events on April 18th, 2024. And you guys. Got to do it. Mayor, you want it? And, it's, I also have something to share with Tracy, because as you can imagine, hopefully none of you ever have to go through it. As a spouse of someone who you're being told does not have a pulse, is not breathing, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of emotion. But Tracy was able, through 911, to start CPR until the officers arrived. So Mayor, if you'd like to present this. Yes, sir.
Recognition. Certificate of appreciation presented to Tracy L. Valley in recognition of the advancing of the mission of emergency cardiovascular care to a courageous act to save life during the event that took place in our home on April 18, 2024.
That's presented on behalf of the police chief and the mayor. Thank you. Social media posts?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, all good.
I just want to say,
without these three people, I wouldn't be here. I've been a first responder for 30 years. I never thought I'd be on this side of it. So for me to go and say thank you to these guys meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to them. It's something we don't get to do, something we never hear. I mean, like I said, 30 years. I don't remember anybody. I've got kudos at home, you know, but I never had the opportunity for somebody to come to me and say, hey, thanks, you saved my life. So I was able to tell these guys, I went and met the paramedics, I went and met the EMTs. Fortunately, I had to go back to the hospital and met a bunch of the nurses, because one of my friends ended up there, but I got to thank them too. So I was able to do this all full circle. But what I could say is, you're not CPR certified, yeah, there's her knowing this and being in medical field for 20 years. It made a difference. 40 years, yeah, but it made a difference. So, you know, if anybody needs it, we can always set something up here. I'm an instructor. We do for the PD as well. Yeah, so, and, you know, we can always do that, but get certified because you can make a difference in your family. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Did I do it right?
You did. Very much.
Wasn't that awesome?
You did. It really wasn't, it wasn't for those three.
I feel like normally a person is responsible, really it's always completely. Yeah, early intervention. It's always not. We were given
You.
How are you? I don't.
Yeah. I believe.
How are you?
I thought so, yes. I think I know who that is. Very tall, yeah.
Yes, yes.
It's nice when they can hear them, I've seen the families. They're just so great.
That's your neighbor.
Yeah. Stick around.
I've seen it.
So many of them.
It's terrible.
Oh, okay.
Then people question why they came. Really, you can't get emergency
Stick around, Jay?
access to the house.
Nice.
There's so many reasons why it's dangerous to come off of a curb. You know, people can get hit. You're coming in from the sidewalk. Like those are the reasons in cases of there's an inherent danger in not keeping your car on the road where people.
Well, that's Jimmy DeMaria right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's
It's him right
Emery, we're still
there. What?
Maybe you're going to speak on this.
You can ask him.
Next up, we're going to do correspondence. No correspondence. Approval of the agenda. Next motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
Get a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. And next up, discussion, parking of cars and lawns.
Thank you, Mayor. And our construction officials here, if you'd like to ask them to come up to the table with a microphone, because I'm sure there'll be some questions. But as I go through this, and as the email I sent you all on October 11th, I believe it was, we've been getting, similar to the garbage can issue, we've been getting more complaints about vehicles parking on the front lawns of homes, not on asphalt, not on concrete. And it's, you know, it's just become more problematic. And the issue is, while we have an ordinance, it's secreted within the zoning portion of our code book, so the police department can't enforce it. And that becomes frustrating for the neighbors that are sending us photographs and complaining to our officers that we have to wait for code enforcement or a zoning officer to come out. And let's face it, there's times they're part-time employees, or there's hours of the day that they're not going to be working when the police department's 24/7. In doing some research, I know that Lodi has recently enacted an ordinance that gives their police officers the right for this violation, as well as I know Wallington did a very similar one. So I bring it to your attention. And I know in speaking with the construction official and our zoning officer, he has some recommendations as far as minimum setbacks and maximum widths, which I know in talking to a few of you committee people that you have some similar concerns. So I'd like to have that discussion tonight, and if this body feels it's important enough to move towards enacting that new ordinance to help alleviate this issue, we can bring that forward in the next coming months.
Okay,
Any questions?
Mr. DiMaria.
Hi, how are you?
Just state your name for the record, I'm sorry.
James DiMaria, construction official, Township of Rochelle Park. And just to touch also with Chief Pinto stated, it is within the zoning ordinance, so the abatement of a zoning violation is 30 days. So that vehicle could be parked on the lawn. Once that vehicle is removed, the person goes to work, technically the violation then disappears, and, it's a continuous onslaught of just ongoing issues. There has been several applications that have been sent to the planning board for, to exceed what's permitted by the current ordinance. So currently, the maximum permitted width of a driveway, it has to be continuous. It's either 40% of the frontage or 18 feet, whichever is less. The typical lot size in Rochelle Park, the average lot size is 50 by 100. If you take 40% of that 50, that would permit a 20-foot driveway, but since the ordinance states whatever is less, it's dropping you down to 18 feet. Majority of people that have this hardship also are limited with the front yard setback only being 25 feet. So your typical parking stall is 18 long by 9 foot wide. So to get two cars back to back is difficult when obviously you only have 25 feet. It just doesn't work. So, this is where, this discussion goes to is how wide do you want to go? Or, right now the township does not allow circular driveways. I don't know if that would be a little more beneficial, something to look at, but, it becomes, how much asphalt do you want in the front of your residential properties? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just,
Jimmy,
what works.
James, is any of that dictated by floodplain or?
Well, in the floodplain, it changes everything. You're only allowed 5 cubic yards of fill, within the flood hazard areas. So, although the zoning is a prior approval, floodplain enforcement is also another aspect of that. So, those people unfortunately would be probably more regulated by the floodplain than anything else.
So I have a couple of questions. Mr. DiMaria just stated there's no circular driveways. There are. I know one on Howard Avenue. That's the first thing. And,
Well, I'm saying that's, it's
Right.
prohibited by ordinance. I don't know if they got a variance.
It was probably when I was a child that was put in, so that was a long time ago. But with that being said, I'm not quite sure if that's the answer. I know when, I'm just speaking for myself, when it was put in, we had widened our driveway to 18 feet. And I believe that was at that time the same ordinance that we could go that far.
Yeah, 2000.
So a couple of questions, because we did get a picture from a resident. The recommendations and what you've looked at in other towns, what's the average that you're seeing in front? You're going with the 18 to 20, I'm sorry, the 20 feet or 40%? Is that what?
Well, that's what our ordinance is currently set at.
Right. So, we're worried about, again, flooding, right? So there's a lot of areas. Where I live on Howard, those houses were built in 1948, 1949. They were post-World War homes. And, it was speculated at that time you'd have a wife, husband, and one child, one car. Mom would stay home. And as time went on, my parents bought their house. I believe it was 57, 58, they bought their house. It was difficult to park with 7 children also. So the family grew. And grew.
And grew.
And grew. And we worked around a lot of the stuff that happened. I can only speak for the rest of you and say, I'm not in favor of paving too much more than what we have now. I think the you went up to 20 feet on this, you're saying 20 feet according to this ordinance, right?
Well, there's a 40% clause just in case your lot has a lot frontage width larger than 50.
Right.
It drops you down, to,
Yeah.
that amount.
So on Howard, some of the houses have the wider width in the front and shorter backyard. And on the other side of the street, it's a longer backyard and shorter front, right? So you have to look at it both ways. But, there was issues with on-street parking. I know that was talked about, Chief, for a little bit,
For many years.
About that.
Yeah, for many years.
Overnight parking I'm talking about.
Still an issue.
Is it still an issue?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
no, people still park on the street overnight and calls.
No, but, we're looking at a lot of families growing in town too, and I understand. And Chief, with the cars, you could put 2 in and then put 2 behind it, say you have 4. But that would be over the sidewalk.
so, yeah, there is an ordinance prohibiting parking over a sidewalk. We've been down this road too numerous times before I was chief, since I'm chief. We try to enforce that during daytime hours because we don't want pedestrians being forced out into the street. At night, we'll kind of, to keep people off the park doing on-street parking, because again, we'd rather have clean streets and not look like neighboring communities that allow on-street parking overnight. So to get those cars off of the roadway, and again, our officers know now at this point, okay, the road's clear, there's nobody that doesn't belong here, we'll extend that courtesy to block the sidewalk. However, again, during the day, those vehicles should not be blocking sidewalks, and there is an ordinance on the books for that.
So with that being said, I don't know if that could be somewhat incorporated into this also, that they would have to be, say, off the sidewalk by, 7 o'clock in the morning or something to that fact.
That's up to this governing body, as long as our attorney doesn't think it's problematic. Yeah, I think we could address several of the issues. Allowing 2 of those vehicles to, if you're widening that driveway, they may not have to, they can now park back to back
Right.
and not be extended over the sidewalk too. So that's what I think, Mr. DiMaria is saying, is that, look, if we allow a little more width, then we can, especially that picture,
You have a little more width. Looking at this picture.
yeah, well, I don't know why this car's all the way back.
Well,
Yeah.
looking at the picture, there's dirt on the right-hand side here, right? I'm looking at that correctly in the picture? There's dirt
It's hard to
there.
tell. That was provided by a resident.
Well, you could barely fit 2 cars here, so you add more. There's no front lawn left. It's all driveway. Oh, I'm sorry.
Where you gonna have the mic?
I'll have my-
The microphones will be upgraded the first week of December. I'm pleased to report that. We'll have a whole new system here for December's meeting.
I'm just looking at the picture. You can't fit 2 cars. Every house is gonna be different, but you're not gonna fit 2 cars front and back. You're taking the whole front of the house is gonna be a driveway.
Well, that's, again, probably over the maximum width, but
And then
But,
when you-
the picture you're looking at, that's a typical 50 by 100 lot. And
Right.
unfortunately, the people or the residents that end up having this issue are the ones on, with, that hardship. So wherever you go with this, it's going to be difficult to, allow those additional cars without, doing such. You don't have to necessarily see asphalt, there's other methods that people could do, but you're still going to have, say you go with, compression blocks that, where the grass, grows through it, you're still going to have cars lined up in front of the house. And, it's, like I said, there's no right or wrong here, but, it's a very difficult decision, to make. And, that's why obviously we have the zoning board, and those who can't, abide by this, they go to the board for relief, as they have been doing. And the board makes a decision if it's going to be a detriment to the neighbors, and, you go from there. So.
Just for public transparency, we, on the council as well as the administrator, received a picture of a house with 3 cars, and one of those cars is actually on the lawn itself. And that's what we're looking at to kind of go through this discussion. And if you look, Jen, you were talking about that. If you look at that on the right-hand side, you can see that's Belgian block or bluestone, so they can't really go over that side of it too much.
Right. It kind of looks like there might be construction going on there, but I don't
No, I'm
see.
talking where the
Yeah,
car is.
no, that's what I mean. It kind of looks like they put new block in, for all I know. I didn't get, the address wasn't provided to me.
I don't have the
Just
address, no, we
yeah.
don't. But, I mean, I'm just looking, I
There's gonna
don't,
be no grass in everybody's front yards.
Do you want to recommend 18 to 20 to make it a little cleaner?
That doesn't make.
Well, right now, we're at 18 feet. You know, look,
3 feet from the property line, right?
what?
I think it was 3 feet from the
But
property.
there's no setback.
Oh, there's no-
No.
Which is why we have to put that up.
so, are you looking for a setback or no?
Well, I know there was discussion about a setback because obviously, when you get into that expansion, majority of the applicants are gonna wanna go closer to their neighbor, but,
Well, you can't have you have to have a setback even when you put a pool up, you can't go so close.
yeah, well,
You gotta look at this.
Yeah,
it's only
I
fair
agree.
to your neighbors.
There should be a buffer,
Right.
3 feet, whatever it may be, but then when you have a detached garage in the rear yard, our setbacks here are a minimum of 5 on one side and a total of 15. So if you have a detached garage in your rear yard and you have a 10-foot setback, obviously you're not going down on the 5-foot side.
Yeah.
So that leaves you with a 10-foot side. So if you throw in a setback there, then you're not going to be able to get a vehicle to, a detached garage in the rear. But, if we do the math, even if we go from 18 to 20, side by side, you're not doing anything, you're not getting any additional vehicles in for that extra 2 feet.
No.
So, because, like I said, 9 foot and 9 foot, now you might be able to put a little motorcycle in that 2 foot, but, what are you really solving?
You're not.
You're not. And then you still had that depth issue, which majority of these applicants, they're not going to be able to meet unless they're hanging out over something. Now, if we go back to the circular driveways, I know towns, allow like a maximum width of 11 feet. I don't know, if it's going to get you a little more. You could do something creative where you have, like sometimes on county roads, they don't want you backing out onto the county road. So they have the driveways that are kind of like, I don't know
Like
what type
kind
of
of
shape that would
K-shape,
be.
yeah, kind of a
But
K-shape.
more of, a creative pull-in
Right,
type thing where, maybe you could squeeze 3 vehicles in and have like a little
Do
turnaround,
it, Kate.
a little shuffling.
Yeah.
You guys could look at that option where, kind of like the width stays the same, but, instead of cars pulling straight in, maybe, stack them and then you get, a little drive aisle to move around, but, it's,
Yeah, so, this exists because we don't allow overnight parking. I don't think we should have no limits, but I think we should do some kind of extension or buffer addition to it because we've talked about having overnight parking, and the problems that it creates are way more than the problems that it causes. So if we could do some kind of accommodation where we allow widening of driveways or extension of driveways, I think that's a good middle ground to have. Something like this where you have a car, not so much on this picture, but I've seen others where they put it right in front of the front door. We just had a man here who had a medical emergency in the middle of the night. The police aren't going to be able to get in there. If there's a fire, they're not going to be able to get in there, or paramedics. So this is also a safety hazard for these residents. It
the
looks
driveway
like,
also has to be continuous. We don't allow, 2 separate curb cuts.
Right.
That's the other caveat of it.
yeah, so in this picture, if the driveway could be widened to accommodate 2 car widths, and I don't know if that's too much area.
Well, that's 18 feet.
Yeah.
So, 2 car,
Yeah.
in that picture, you would have, close to a, 27 foot.
Right.
That's
They would
a
still
lot.
have to figure out something for that 3rd vehicle, but, we're not going to be able to accommodate 3, 4, 5 vehicles in front of a house.
Well, that depends, and I'm going to just stop you there for a second because you can accommodate 4 if you go over the sidewalk.
I'm talking about width.
Width, no.
I'm talking
Let's see
about
that,
width.
yeah.
So we can't accommodate 4 wide. I have a neighbor about 5 houses down who uses my driveway. I've tried to accommodate, I have the extra space, They have grown children who are going to college, going to work. I allow them to use my driveway. I know that that's not feasible for every neighbor, but that's another creative way of people can finding a place to put their cars if they can't fit 4 or 5 cars on their own property. So, but something like this, and then the one that's fully on the lawn is a rather big vehicle. That might be very difficult to put one in front of the other. But if we can make some kind of accommodation to at least fit it 2 wide, and perhaps they could do 2 by 2, one in front of the other, move up closer, or maybe they could use the garage for actual cars. There's a lot of neighbors that don't use their cars.
You still have, the 50%, impervious coverage regulations that, even though you might be able to extend it, they might be limited there. And that's where, like, certain towns, they get into doing, like, a strip of grass in the middle, and they do, like, the 2 rows of.
Right, for the tires?
Pavers, for the tires, but, from what I'm hearing, it sounds that visual of having 3 cars lined up isn't the direction that everyone kind of wants to go. So, us speaking about 18 feet, 22 feet, it's really, a mute point, right?
So let's jump back to actually what we were looking at originally was for police officers to enforce this.
Exactly. And
So if we're looking at that and you're going to change your ordinance, the police officers may have to also understand that maybe there's something could be put in that if you want back to back and to be over the sidewalk, say by whatever time, 7, whatever you guys decide to do, but it's off the street as you wish, right? You'd like to have that. And just for a short, overnight, you can't park, 3 to 6, you can't park, right? So maybe by 7 o'clock, you have to have it off. And I know I live by a park, and I know that carriages are coming down the street all the time in the summer. So this might be something that be incorporated, but what we want to look at right now is, can the police officers enforce this?
Right, and so the language in the zoning portion of the ordinance just reads, off-street parking is also permitted in a front yard, restricted to the driveway paved area.
Right.
Well, if we move that language somewhere in our parking ordinance, the police can then enforce it, that
Right.
a vehicle's now on a lawn. And we could issue warnings, and we would do a campaign, and, through social media, through our community outreach, advising residents, hey, look, we're gonna give you a 30-day buffer, but going forward, this new ordinance can be enforced, and whatever this committee decides as far as fines go. I know I have the example from Lodi. Its first offense is $100 per day, second offense is $200 per day, and third and further up is $300 per day at the discretion of the municipal court. But again,
But then I think we're back here then, once they get the penalty, they're gonna come, okay, I want to widen my driveway,
Correct.
and then I have to tell them, well, I'm sorry,
Right.
you're only at 18 feet, and they go, oh, that's not gonna help me, so.
Well, then they can go in front of the zoning.
They would
board
go in
for
front of the
that.
zoning board,
Right.
and if the zoning board starts denying it, or, they're gonna set some type of precedence, of where they're gonna go, it's difficult.
It is difficult, yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in, just the fact that it could impact water runoff, like you mentioned here, Dean. I would be curious to know how the public feels about it. So I'm just going to make a motion to open up to the public right now, for them to weigh in on this.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
This time, anybody from the public has a thought?
I know Diane does. She's been hammering this for 4 years now.
Well, you mentioned the sidewalk. It's funny because I actually was going to mention that tonight. It's not just how it looks. I will say, in a perfect example, I know you mentioned daytime, but I drive up Central 2-3 times a week.
Can you state your name for the record?
I am still Diane Verhassel Forest Place. And if somebody wants to walk, they can't on the sidewalk. There are, I can't tell you how many houses from the second or third house up, all the way to where 17 goes over, that are blocking the sidewalk. There's a house that has half across their lawn and on the sidewalk, and that's a dangerous street if you're telling people they have to walk in the street. I understand we passed that ordinance where for so many hours they can park that way. But maybe they need to go to the zoning board. I'm not saying everybody on our Jimmy says some people don't get denied, but if they have a good reason, they'll get a variance and they can make their driveway at least a little bigger. They actually should use, like you said, their garage for what it was built for, not for storage, but for cars. You know, and I think a lot of people are choosing not to. And so they just park across their lawn, park across their sidewalk. And I just think it's a dangerous situation for people in town. When you drive, anybody who leaves this meeting and drives up Verdun, you'll see there are many houses that the sidewalk is blocked. By my house on Forest, people that walk their kids to school, the strollers are in the street because they can't always walk on the sidewalk because they're blocked. And it's dangerous. And that's really my concern, you know, it's a dangerous thing that someone's going to get hurt because they have to go around the car that's parked across the sidewalk. Now, I don't know if it's something that the police can't do because it's an ordinance or whatever.
The
but-
blocking the sidewalk, we can enforce, and I know the captain's here, he'll vouch, I come in every day and say, make sure patrol goes out there and during the course of their.
Now, can they do it during the day? Because I remember,
Yeah, well, that's when we really want to do it, because of the pedestrian traffic, right? You know.
because I know
let's
you
face
had
it,
that
you
one
know, at night-
ordinance from certain
What?
times.
I'm sorry?
You passed, there was an ordinance at some point they passed that allowed, or is it just at night they?
No, it was a courtesy extended from the
At night?
police department. Chief Flannelly started it. We continued it again to work with our residents because it's a problem, right? You know, the world has changed. It's not like Committeewoman Judge Crivello mentioned where you had only the dad drove a car. We have now mom, dad,
Et cetera.
son, daughter who don't move out for an extended period of time. And so you have 4 or 5 cars in you know, a given home. But we do, you know, and when we get complaints, we immediately go to those residents. We dealt with one on Older Street recently, made several visits and issued several summonses because they just weren't getting the warning. So, we go to some. Did they go back to parking over the sidewalk? Probably within a week or two. So we have to address it again. We write another summons. But,
Now, is
yeah,
that
I mean,
something,
it's
it's like a ticket, then they have to pay?
Oh, yeah. So what we can't do, though, is issue a ticket for these cars, like in that picture parked on the lawn. Right now, we just can't.
So that's the thing you want changed, to add to
That's
that?
one suggestion that I'm bringing to this committee to make, but it brings along the problem of land use, right, of zoning.
Well, maybe, you know, I mean, it doesn't help everybody, but some people, like I said, might need to be told, oh, you have a garage. Are you putting your cars in the garage? I know you can't force them to, but there are, I know in my area where I live, there's many a person, it's a storage shed. My next door neighbor has sheetrock filling his garage. You know, he's lucky he has a long driveway, but many people don't use it for what it's, I know you can't tell them they have to.
Well,
But
so.
it's a
yeah.
strong suggestion, and maybe they should be also told, maybe think about if they have to get a variance,
Yeah,
you know.
and there is some clauses, obviously, you know, within the ordinance. One, you know, if you're adding bedrooms, you have to comply and provide a certain off-street parking before you could add that additional bedroom. And then also, obviously, people trying to make more space, they want to convert the garage into, you know, a bedroom. They would also have to comply with being able to provide those additional. So, you know, the township does enforce it that way to try to, you know, limit, you know, it from that sense, but, you know, like I said, it's pretty difficult. You can't tell somebody how to use their house.
But maybe, very strong suggestion to, maybe you should think about getting a variance. Just, I mean, and then there's other problems. I mean, there's a house in Verdun that's a 2-family house. They literally have a 1-car driveway and a 1-car garage. And it's a 2-family house. So without even getting into one family having several cars, I can't imagine when both families, you know, when they rent it out, where those people, I don't know where they park, but I don't know what they do.
Anybody else? Someone comment on the parking?
Anybody else from the public? Thoughts?
On the parking issue.
Linda Boniface, 33 Parkway. I know this will be a conversation on and on, but it's about time you look at on-street parking. Because you can't have somebody with 4 cars and nowhere to go, but limit it, 2 cars per household, has to have the sticker on it, you know. Look into it, but I think it's time the town goes that way. Thank you.
Anybody else?
That's about it for the public part of this. Motion to close.
Motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you, James.
So how are we looking at this now? Are we gonna have it where the police can enforce it?
Yeah, I think we can,
forward with that?
we can all agree that.
Do you want to poll the committee? I mean,
Yeah, is the
please
committee
give us that availability and then
To do that, I
make
can
some
move
some
forward.
zoning.
Yeah, I can move forward and do the ordinance to move it over to the parking section and make sure the police can enforce it. Is
Yeah.
everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll prepare the ordinance.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Administrators.
Thank you, Mayor. Try to be brief. Shade Tree, Community Forestry Management Plan, I just want to give the committee an update. We are still working with our grant writer. The state had the portal closed for the longest time while they were updating the grant, but we are going to be submitting. I'm working with the grant writer and our arborist on submitting under the inventory and planning program, since we do not have a municipal tree inventory, but that grant should cover both the Community Forestry Management Plan development and the inventory costs, since it's our first management plan. By having this plan, we should become eligible for other grants. Talking about trees, while we're there, DPW has taken delivery today of about, I believe, 10 to 15 trees, Dave, today? 10 today, of the 20 that were purchased, or 25? Of the 25 trees that the township has purchased, they'll be planted around various locations around town where homeowners have been asking for trees and where Dave has them mapped out. And DPW and Shade Tree Committee and Team RP members on Saturday teamed up to do more plantings at some of the traffic islands around town. And I want to thank Dave's team for coming out on a Saturday and helping do that, helping spruce up the area. Harvey Avenue, work has all but been completed. It is not done, but the new storm drains, pipes, ADA compliant ramps, curbing, sidewalks, pedestrian crossing signage, and resurfacing has taken place. 29 trees will eventually be installed beginning in the next 5 to 7 days. There was a problem today after I wrote this report, brought to us by Boswell Engineering, that the contractor's nursery was out of the trees that we were originally slated to get, but Dave quickly consulted his arborist training and his knowledge of trees, and we were able to provide them with a new set of trees, and we'll still get half of what we originally had planned out. Again, we're trying to basically stagger white and pink flowers. So we didn't want to put all of the same tree, fearing a disease wipes out a whole crop of 29 trees. Dave was smart enough to say, no, we're not doing that. So gave Boswell a couple suggestions, and we think we found one. So that hopefully, now knowing delays that nurseries are out of stock of certain things, they said 5 to 7 days. If there's an update, I'll let you know. Also, I continue to work with Boswell on getting some speed mitigation striping done on the roadway. And did I mention the new street signs DPW have put up, which are the township colors and have our township seal. PFC&G efficiency program, the upgrade to LED light fixtures is currently underway in many of the township buildings. I know Dave had mentioned, or I had mentioned earlier, I was advised by Dave Brown that our roof was measured. I still have no timetable for the upgrades to our boilers and HVAC units, but we hope it's soon since they did take measurements. On October 10th, I held an in-person meeting with our residents for our current elevation of homes. That grant, with our grant administrator, our OEM coordinator. Unfortunately, there's some more problems and delays with that grant and the administration of it. Nothing to do on the township's part. Unfortunately, it's FEMA's rules, and then not understanding soil composition and the building that we have here in New Jersey, specifically in a non-shore community. They want our homeowners to do certain things that just wouldn't look right, as well as they're concerned, and the vendors, the approved vendors, are concerned that they need to use certain types of piers that drive the cost up astronomically, and honestly, some of the homes may not even be eligible for the grant anymore. However, our grant writer has been able to work with New Jersey Office of Emergency Management, who's administering the grant for us, through FEMA for us, and they've authorized soil boring tests of the properties, and those will be conducted the week of October 28th. So we'll have some more updates and information for those residents once we get those results back. It can be taken back to the contractor and say, look, your fears are not true, or they may be, but if they're not, reanalyze the cost proposals. With that being said, I also received an email from the New Jersey State Office of Emergency Management. They provided a list of 22 new homes that expressed interest in pursuing another round of elevation grants. Emails and letters were sent to these homes, and so far 6 residents have responded back with interest. I'll continue to follow up. I don't trust our mail service anymore. And maybe we'll send certified letters out now, and since I didn't get email responses or letters back to the other 16 homes. And again, that's assuming this committee wants us to pursue the grant. It costs the township nothing. All of our costs are covered, and it affords 22 residents an opportunity to hopefully elevate their homes so they're not at a repetitive flood risk, which again saves us in the events that we have. We're not, responding to emergency calls during evacuations, etc. Fourth round of affordable housing. The township's new obligation for the methodology is 109 units prospective need. That number we need to actively plan for, and then 10 units of present need, which is addressed through rehabilitation program that can upgrade existing units occupied by qualified households. I sent an email to this committee strongly recommending we put together a housing subcommittee of our professionals, some of our municipal staff, and a committee member or two, and schedule a meeting soon to discuss how to proceed. I today spoke with our professionals, namely our affordable housing attorney, Brian Giblin Sr., and our planner, John Barry, and they will discuss with you the options of getting our obligation number possibly reduced at November's meeting. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Good committee's report. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so, one second. So tomorrow's the senior meeting, 10/24 at 1 p.m. They will have a Halloween costume contest, and prizes will be awarded. Nurses will be available at 12 noon for blood pressure checks. I may go as Aaron Judge. Go Yankees. Right?
Nice.
The school, as far as the school, their regular meeting was moved to next week because they're at the New Jersey School Board Convention this week, so it'll be on the 29th. And now with DPW, I know Administrator Mr. Pinto said a couple of things, but let me give you this. The street sweeper is out of service, right? So they're waiting for the parts to come in to complete the repairs and get the machine back on the roads. Do you know how long that'll take about? We don't know, right?
I've been in touch with the service facility multiple times this week. And you said he's going to get back to it.
And he hasn't got back. Okay, got it. All right. Well, I know you're going to follow up on that. Just waiting for the parts. Okay, thanks. In the next couple of weeks, upcoming weeks, there'll be 25 planting of new trees to homeowners, as Administrator said, that have been waiting patiently. So those 25 will go in. There was a question about that. Is it okay a resident question, is it okay to plant these trees this time of year? Okay, and they will.
This is the best time. We don't have to water them. Where the plant is spring, we have to water, and they should be maintained a couple times a week to make sure the beds are full.
Okay.
So it's definitely time consuming, or not being time consuming. This is the best time to plant.
And they'll be planted with the bags on them, right? No, they don't have to be right now.
Dave, okay. If I may, Dave, I believe the plans from Boswell, those will be with bags. If you look at the plans, yeah, that was spec'd out.
What is that for Harvey?
For Harvey, the trees on Harvey,
Harvey,
the 29
okay.
on Harvey.
We'll eventually take those bags off so that they're obviously not freezing and dripping if there's any water left. And then we'll put them back on.
Okay, so all the bags will be removed from the trees and they'll be put back on. Got it. Okay, speaking about Harvey Avenue, I know you brought it up, Chief, but there's a couple of things. They're going to do they put the new signs up, the burgundy ones, burgundy and white, which are the town colors, and they look great. There's going to be some kind of triangle, Chief. I'm understanding that there's going to be a triangle that says 25 miles an hour striping that still has to be done on Harvey.
Correct. That's I'm working. I reported my report. We're working with Boswell still on getting the vendor to come back. Budget for, permitting. It should be money left in that budget, and there will be those triangles. It's raised vinyl, so there is kind of a rumble to it, and it says 25 mph.
Do we know how many are going to be put on Harvey?
Probably do. We're looking at usually going in and coming out, so we'll stagger them, you know.
Because I do see the crosswalk has been painted and the signs that have been painted. I believe there's 3 of them on Harvey, right? There's
The
one, two,
pedestrian crossing.
there should be 3 of them. There's 4. There's 4 of them?
And we put the LED stop sign.
And the stop sign. Yeah, it looks great. I mean, it really came out, in my opinion, came out nice. Okay, so the sewer line behind the DPW building has been completed with the repairs. And they did a lot of, while doing litter pickup, Carlock Field team member from the DPW found a tear in the turf field, and contact to the vendor has been made for the repairs. They had 1 call for sewer backup and have been out stump grinding and still need to finish up 4 more stumps. I guess that's on the easements that you're doing that?
Yes.
Okay. So they've been vacuuming and flushing out the storm drain water systems and from Essex Street to Paramus border and everything east on Rochelle Avenue, and we'll continue to inspect the rest for storm drain systems as repairs are required. Right? And that's it I have. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I want to just say happy Halloween to everyone. Hopefully everything it's going to be beautiful from what I'm understanding. It's supposed to be like 78. And I just want to say thank you to Team Rochelle Park. We were out there we picked up a lot of litter on Saturday. I was, Mr. Miller, myself, and a whole bunch of other people went out and picked up the different stuff. At the school, they also had the trunk or treat. That was pretty exciting. There was quite a few cars. I remember being at the first trunk or treat many years ago, and there was 3 cars. I believe there had to be at least 30 cars there at the trunk or treat. I'm going to say probably within that range. And the kids, it seemed like, had a great time, as well as the parents did too, and anybody that came. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. In September, the court issued 511 traffic tickets and handled 29 criminal complaints, resulting in a total court revenue of $12,788 for the month of September. The Access for All Committee met on Wednesday, October 16th. Members voiced their recommendation in having their chairperson serve as a designee to the Recreation Committee to ensure town events are accessible to all residents and mutually help out with event planning coordination. So maybe this can be discussed further once Recreation appoints a chairperson, and we can talk more about this collaboration between both committees. The library is hosting 2 Halloween events, a spooktacular Halloween bash on Saturday, October 26th at 1 p.m., featuring a costume contest, balloon art, and trick-or-treating, and more. There's also going to be a Halloween family trivia night on Monday, October 28th at 6:30 p.m. And as Committeewoman Judge Corbello said, I attended several community events this past weekend: Coffee with Blue at Sam's, Midland PTO's Trunk or Treat, and Team Rochelle Park's community cleanup alongside Committeewoman Judge Corbello. And all these events demonstrate strong community engagement, and I was happy to be a part of it. That is all from me. Thank you so much, and have a safe and happy Halloween.
Committeewoman O'Toole?
Hello. I attended the Volunteer Fire Department's annual ex-chief beefsteak dinner. Thank you to the fire chief and the officers. Thank you also to the American Legion for hosting the event at no cost to the township. It is very much appreciated. As for the police, first of all, again, congratulations to Joe Bruno and Evan Migliori for receiving the Life Saving Award. That was very impressive, and we thank you and your team for always looking out for our residents. The September report. During the month of September, our team answered 1,694 calls for service. Even with this high volume, our patrol division and detectives continue to demonstrate good proactive tactics in seeking out criminal activity before it impacts innocent people, and that extra effort output is demonstrated by the 248 vehicle stops, 24 arrests, 50 criminal charges, and 587 summonses issued. Our Detective Bureau conducted an investigation that resulted in an arrest of a suspect for her theft of $100,000 from her employer. Our patrol officers also responded to a strong armed robbery on West Passaic Street and within minutes apprehended the suspect and returned all of the stolen proceeds to the unharmed victim. In the month of September, our school resource officer, Lieutenant Stapleton, went back to school where he was assisted by other officers with traffic control and extra patrols of the area that will continue throughout the school year. We also continued our community outreach and started back up our Cops and Shops program, and members of the department proudly participated in the 8th grade car wash. On September 7th, our department hosted its first pickleball tournament, which I got to watch. Have you recovered yet, Chief?
Good.
Okay.
Captain, not so much.
Yeah, okay. You okay now? With Team Captain Tapretta and Sergeant Galena taking first place. On September 11th, our police honor guard were proud to participate in the September 11th ceremonies at the monuments at Rochelle Avenue. They did a great job, Chief, and it was very respectful to see them there.
Thank you.
The department continued to expand the capabilities of our team with training in many facets of the job, including Sergeant Lavoie and Police Officer Saldivia for attending Red Dot firearm instructor training. Sergeant Cobb attended firearms laws and applicant investigative class. Police Officer Migliori attended the New Jersey State Police Drug Impaired Driving course, and Police Officer Monaco attended the Maryland State Police Basic Motorcycle Operations course. On the administrative side, we are currently in the midst of our sergeant's promotional process and have completed the in-house and Township Committee interview process, and will be administering the custom written exam on December 3rd. We have moved forward in the hiring process and have narrowed down the applicant pool from 55 applicants down to 9 to be interviewed. So some highlighted numbers: motor vehicle crashes is 42, emergency medical calls is 78, community outreach is 9, fire department responses is 11, and total arrests, complaints, and charges is 50. So thank you to your team. Thank you, Captain and Chief.
Deputy Mayor?
For recreation, excuse me, Ragamuffin Parade is this Saturday. The parade starts at 11:30. Lineup starts at 11 a.m. at the Midland School Williams Street parking lot. Activities will be held afterwards at Carlock Field. There'll be a pumpkin decorating contest open to children ages pre-K through 5th grade. The decorated pumpkins need to be dropped off at Carlock Field before the contest to be eligible. Registration for recreation basketball is expected to open the end of the week or the beginning of next week. And mark your calendars. The Rochelle Park annual tree lighting event is scheduled for Friday, December 6th at the municipal building parking lot, and the details will follow soon. And that's all. Thank you.
Rochelle Park Fire Department responded to 31 calls in the month of September. Members logged a grand total of 86 hours, man-hours in the month of September. Members logged 31 and a half hours on calls in a month. FD was dispatched to the outside of a grass fire and fence fire. We found the outside electrical power line that was split and taped upland in the middle of the burnt area. Water was placed on the burnt area after we determined the power was off. Home electrical panel was checked. FD responded to 17 mutual calls in Maywood, Lodi, Saddlebrook, and Grant. Construction report, permits issued 33, inspections were 82, total value of construction $849,718. Permits deeds to fee collected $20,189. Permits fees waived 0. Zoning permits 1,225. Zoning inspections 7. Zoning applications 17. Continuous certificate of occupancy $950. Standalone inspections 35. Property maintenance violation issued were 18. 59 complaints. CCO inspection 7. Total fees collected were $22,364. Year to date, $305,234. Attorney's report.
Nothing from me, Mayor.
Clerk's report. This time, make a motion to open up a public portion of all items.
Make a motion.
Second.
This time, aye.
Aye.
This time, we are open for public portion. Please try and limit to 3 minutes.
Linda Boniface, 33 Parkway. After getting the specs of Howard Ave in an Oprah, it's not all being paved, is it?
That's why we're pushing it off till the spring, and we'll get the whole portion.
The whole road from end to end?
Well, from Patton Court to.
Yeah, not end to end.
Well,
That's what was supposed to be happening. My understanding was when we were doing road projects, we did them end to end.
Yeah,
Yeah. Why did that not come? Every other street gets done from end to end.
I'll be happy to sit with you and Dave, we can explain to you. Not at this, we don't have the time in your 3 minutes.
Yeah. What about the pipe? What's going on with that?
It's not our problem, it's only
Okay,
the
thank
contractor.
you. That's all I want to know. Ramada property. Did you ask the developer? Did you watch? You didn't read social media? Okay. Ramada property. Did you ask the developer how many units, including the affordable housing, does he need to turn a profit? Just like he would turn a profit on the pilot.
I've had no conversations with the
Okay.
developer, that's what our
Can somebody?
redevelopment attorney.
You know what, Mark? Can you ask that question? And then, are they interested in a 55 and over? The other thing, I was happened to cut through to go to Dairy Queen. Heart to Heart doesn't have a bike rack. What happened there?
I don't.
I can answer that. Sure, no problem. So my office was in communication with the woman from Part Talk for a long period of time. We offered her a license agreement, which is something that this borough has not done with anybody else. It was something that was unique to her property, that this borough decided and voted on that we were going to move forward with it. My office took some time to research the matter, and it took some time to figure it out because it was a unique situation. My office finally drafted and prepared an agreement, a licensing agreement, which I put in front of her. She rejected it, was not happy with the licensing agreement. I offered her an additional time to speak to an attorney about the license agreement. I would continue to discuss it with her, at what point she said it took too much time and she was no longer interested.
Sad. Sad. Route 17 and Rochelle Ave, anything?
No, so and if you don't mind, Mayor, I actually forwarded or sent an email to Tom Dutch, maybe a week and a half ago, saying our Board of Ed still hasn't seen any preliminary plans. If at all possible, please share those. I'd like to see any updates, and my answer was, this has been forwarded to engineering, and I've heard nothing since.
I also Oprah the audit of the township. Last year when we bonded, let's go back. When I discovered that there was a slush fund in town, and I'm going to call it a slush fund because that's what it was. Money was supposed to be deposited into the general funds of the town. Instead, they went into a trust account for fire prevention. It was proven by an audit that that money was for the general funds. Now, at the time, the remaining money was $70,000. And the fire prevention official was he would allow it to go out of that account because I don't know, for some reason, it's not allowed without his permission, but it was put there wrong. So we were supposed to take that. He agreed to take the $70,000 to buy the new radios. So last year when there was money in there for radios, I said, what about the $70,000 in the trust account? So now the trust account is missing like $46,000. I just don't understand in all these years why that money can't be moved out. It belongs to the people of this town. And it's before you. But I mean, it's just, I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Roy's not here. He actually said he'd be available by phone. If you'd like, we can call him and discuss it
Yeah,
after the
and
meeting.
I'm going to hear this is the best budget we've ever had, 6 years in a row, 7 years in a row this year. $6,765 to Biagio's. Can you tell me what that was for?
Want me to answer that, man? The Biagio's? Yeah, that was the fire department 50th anniversary or recognition of two members' 50th years of service.
I asked you if a banquet was going to happen out of there. Why don't they use their social fund? And then we paid for a beefsteak on top of that, which, by the way, I was the first female to ask why I wasn't invited to the beefsteak. So what I found out was they don't invite women, but now they'll invite women all over the place. So I got viciously attacked by them for years. So now we're gonna pay why don't they use their social fund? I asked you, was that budgeted in the budget? You told me no.
No, there was extra money put in their budget this year for maintenance and for a banquet.
Yeah, I asked you budget time. Was there money in the budget? And you said no.
Well, there's money in their budget. Their budget is discretionary on how to
They're
choose to
failing,
spend it.
okay? We all know it. They don't want to let you know it. They're failing. It's time to look into mergers with the towns surrounding us.
Please wrap it up, you're almost going for
Yeah, I will wrap it up.
No problem.
Mr. Bassetti, do you know what the budget of this township is yet?
Any other questions?
Zero.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Chris Muller, Forest Place. I just have one quick question. Both the September 25th meeting and the October 23rd meeting was published in the Herald News and the Bergen Record. Why did that start? What happened to the Our Town? The reorganization meeting, January 3rd, is a resolution 024-014 establishing an official newspapers. Did you change that? Did you have a new resolution? Why are we, who's reading the Herald News? My thought.
Well, the official papers of the town are the Bergen Record, the Herald News, and the Our Town.
All right, so what?
What are we statutory obligated?
Statutory obligated to publish in one, and it was sent to the Our Town, but not to be published in the Our Town. Every time we publish an ad in the paper, it costs money. And my budget is being eaten up alive by...
The Our Town?
No, by just publications, because all ordinances have to be published.
Right.
Change of meetings.
Yeah, all the change of meetings.
So it's easier to do the Herald News than the Our Town?
When you do the Bergen Record, it's the Bergen Record and Herald News.
It's your daily papers, right?
Yeah,
But you're not
papers.
putting
The
it-
Our Town is only, the Our Town is only once a week.
Yeah, I know that, I've been getting it.
And if you don't get it in by a certain date, you miss the cutoff.
Okay.
First of all, my name is Walter Houghton, West Alder Street. I want to start off with positive. This Saturday, the PTO had the trunk or treat, and Access for All had a vehicle there. And I want to thank the office staff here for helping me get the material from the office to the car. They should be commended. They didn't have to do that, but they assisted us. So kudos to them. Second, in the course of driving around town, I've noticed a large number of tractor trailers coming into town and being staged in various areas. Do we know what this is in reference to? Do we know the material that's being carried throughout our town? Is it hazardous material, human trafficking? What? We might want to look into this, because we do have geographically located accessibility to most of the country. So I think we should definitely be on alert for that.
Hi, still Diane Verhassel. Tonight, I just want to let everybody, if anybody here, especially in the audience, would like to buy a fish fry ticket, this is the last week we're selling them. The Scouts do appreciate the support for the troop. We do a lot for the community, and anybody who buys tickets, we appreciate it. So I have them with me tonight. If anybody would like to buy some, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
right, looks like nobody else is coming up. Can I get a motion to close?
I'll make the motion.
Get a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance introductions, you pulling anything or not?
No, you can read the introduction, then you can ask for discussion.
May I ask for a motion introduced by the title, the first reading of ordinance number 1212-24, an ordinance to amend chapter 36 of the code of the Township of Rochelle Park entitled Recreation Committee by way of resolution number 24-190, and it be published in full of the Burial Record with notice of public hearing to be held on November 13th, 2024.
Ask for questions or comments.
Any questions?
I have comments on this one. I think my feeling on this one is, from reading this in section 36-3, that we're making a secretary, which is also a member. I think that we need to be consistent with the boards and keep the secretary as the paid position and not a member. I don't think that should be a combined spot. I don't think it should be a member and a paid position. Because you have volunteers, they're not paid, and then you have a member who's a volunteer, but they're getting paid. I think to be consistent with the other boards, secretary should be a paid position and not a member.
Just really quickly, my office prepared this ordinance in line with the ordinance that originally existed, where the secretary was also a voting member. My position is, we can do it any way that this township committee would like. If you want to remove the secretary's ability to be appointed as a voting member and just have the secretary as a paid member, I think that that's perfectly acceptable, and my office can make that change. So if that's what we want to do, you can take a motion tonight to amend the ordinance or to change the ordinance to remove the secretary position as a voting member and solely have the secretary as a paid member. You guys can vote, I can change it, and it can be ready to go for the next meeting.
So let me understand, Jim, this is also in planning and zoning that they're not paid, they're not members.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because
Just
they're paid.
secretary.
So we want to keep it kind of consistent. I'm sorry. We want to keep it kind of consistent.
Correct.
Yeah. Seems fair. Yeah.
Fair enough, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, all right, do you want to make a motion to have me amend the ordinance to remove the secretary position as a paid voting member?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, my office will amend the ordinance and it will be on for next meeting
Thank you.
for hearing and adoption.
All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Township Committee and will be approved by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a committee member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of agenda as part of the general orders. Resolutions number 024-191 through resolution number 024-196. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
Committeewoman Bartola?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peachy?
Yes.
Committeewoman Judge Covello?
Yes.
Committeeman Miller?
Yes.
And Mayor Pacey?
Yes.
Do you want to go to, I don't know if I have to go to close. So, really quick, I sent an email around to the Township Committee with regard to information about the renewal of the lease upstairs. I don't know if it's necessary for us to go in a closed session unless anybody wants to discuss it. If not, everyone can just respond to my email and kind of let me know what their position is, and that satisfies me. Okay? If anybody would like to go in a closed session and discuss it, we can do it. But if not, if everyone wants to respond to me, and again, please respond to me individually. All right? That's all I have to say.
Just let everybody know next meeting.
Yep. Oh.
Next meeting, we'll have a special meeting, October 30th, 2024. This will pretty much just be for interviews for new hires for police officers. Anything else really
It's
being
starting at
discussed?
6 p.m.
Yeah,
That's the only thing on the agenda.
that's the only thing on the agenda, and I'll be closed. After that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.